If you ever dreamed of going to space without working for NASA, this could be the first step. Behind the launch of SpaceX. Mark this day, private industry has now officially entered the final frontier. The Falcon 9 rocket is right this moment traveling through space. Final destination, the International Space Station, and this is huge because this is the first commercial mission to the ISS. The launch this morning was flawless.
2, 1, 0.
Now, keep in mind that the U.S. has to rely right now on Russian space teams to send astronauts up to the ISS and also cargo. Remember, that's one of the results of shutting down the space shuttle program that happened last summer. So now the private company, SpaceX, they're going to do the work. That is, if all goes well as planned. And we're paying a lot for it to make it happen. So far, SpaceX has received more than $380 million from NASA. And NASA's head, his chief administrator, says today is not just a day really for private industry, but he says also for American independence.
The United States will once again be in the lead. We'll be providing our own vehicles to take our own astronauts and cargo to the International Space Station. It's fine to rely on partners, but that's not where the greatest nation in the world wants to be. We want to be taking astronauts and cargo on our own vehicles. Today was a huge day in the step to getting there.
So that was NASA's perspective. Let's get SpaceX here. Lawrence Williams, former Vice President of Strategic Relations for SpaceX. Lawrence, good to see you. Welcome. We just heard how huge this is for really independence, and ultimately, I know I talked to Charlie Bolden recently, and he's hoping, NASA can think, further out, as in like a rocket launch to Mars, and in the meantime, SpaceX can perhaps end up ferrying astronauts. But today, this morning, seeing this rocket go up, what was that like for you? Why is this so significant for SpaceX?
Well, I think it was a huge moment, both for the United States as well as for the industry. And I definitely was holding my breath, I think, like a lot of people at SpaceX. So it was quite exciting. It
was probably a collective breath-holding moment. I want to play a little video here of several SpaceX employees this morning at the launch. Take a look. So after holding the breath, the cheers came, obviously, once that rocket launch was successful. Here's my question, because I was down covering the Atlantis launch, the final STS-135 last summer, and I talked to a lot of tearful, NASA employees, because a lot of folks along the Space Coast, Lawrence, were frustrated they were losing jobs. I'm just curious how many of those employees are absorbed by private enterprise like SpaceX?
I think increasingly a number of private companies are picking up the former NASA employees. I think a few things have been lost in the wake of the retirement of the space shuttle. First of all, the impression that the administration and that NASA was getting out of the space transportation business, I think, is incorrect.
Right.
And secondly, that it was the private sector really wasn't heavily involved to begin with, as it was with the space shuttle. So it is a transition. I think it's an exciting time. I think we stand on the verge of opening up space for a lot of new enterprises. Since I've left SpaceX, I've been working with a number of companies that are being enabled by the lower cost access to space that SpaceX is enabling. So I really think it is like the early days of the internet or the cellular telephone, and that we're going to, with lower cost access, we'll really see tremendous amount of job creation and new opportunities across the board.
What about ultimately, though, in space, looking into the future, what will private enterprise be able to accomplish? I know SpaceX ultimately would like to be able to ferry astronauts to the ISS and not rely on the Russian Soyuz. What else?
Yes, that's true. And in addition, we've got this space station that's up there. It's a $100 billion asset, and it's a national laboratory, therefore a national asset, which we hope to be able to utilize with lower cost, more frequent access to the space station. I can tell you that a lot of companies, I just got back from Silicon Valley, and there are a lot of the Silicon Valley entrepreneurs there that are already well on their way in developing new technologies that they want to prove out on space, the ability to do on-orbit manufacturing, to do develop new drugs and medicine and biomedical devices. So it's really, we don't yet know at this point all the things it's going to enable, but it's quite an exciting opportunity.
Right. Lawrence Williams, I appreciate it. You mentioned entrepreneurs. We're going to be talking to Richard Branson coming up next hour, who is, making it pretty much his mission to get you to space if you can fork over 200 grand, that is. He's the chairman of Virgin Group, the founder of Virgin Galactic Space Line. We're going to talk space and space tourism coming up next hour.